Hey, hi there, guys. Warren here. Do you feel confused? I think most of us go around saying that we're confused, but I don't think we're confused. I just think we're overexposed. Indeed. And that's what I want to talk about and share with you today, at least in my opinion, is that we're just overly exposed. We say things like, we don't know what to do, I'm stuck, I'm unsure. And more so, actually, today, I think, than before. And I don't think it's lack of clarity, because with where we are technologically, unless we choose to continue to be in the dark, I don't think it's a lack of clarity. I think it's just too many inputs. Too many inputs goes back to my point about I don't think it's a lack of clarity because of where we are technologically. Too many inputs, too many opinions, too many people with advice, too many self-help channels, too many self-help mentalities, too much content, and too much perspective. And perspective is good. There are nuances. There are shades of gray to black and white. So perspectives are good. But I'm talking about the perspectives of those who are of the opinion or the notion that they're in the know. You know, these talking heads with their opinions that they often try to fit to us, even if we didn't ask for that or not. And the content overload. I mean, content is good because there are a lot of really good creators out there with really good content, some of which helps us to make the decisions without being self-help, just reminds us, pushes us a little bit, nudges us along to do the things that we know. So there's some good content out there. But man, there's just a lot of opinions and perspectives and points of views and advice that I think is not helping but becoming a part of the problem, the overload. And the thing with that is that none of them agree. And then the brain says, oh, wait, what's going on here? And in doing that, it stalls. And when it stalls, we stall. So it's not inputs. It's just too much of it. And I did an episode where I talked about what is the difference between embracing changes and romanticizing it, like the Renaissance. So I did another episode about that. And I mentioned that they struggled to access ideas, right? Before the Renaissance took full effect, and even after, in some areas and in some respects, they struggled to access ideas. And our issue, we're struggling to filter it. What do we keep? Because, again, there is just an overwhelming amount of information. And then, of course, because, our show, on the other hand, the cost of this overexposure, not only do we stall, is that we don't make decisions that we need to make. We're indecisive. We find ways to justify why it is that we're stalling. And some of that is vulnerability and fear especially for the younger among us that are first getting their feet wet, per se, in this absurdity called our environment. But we don't metaphorically pull the trigger. We find ways to justify why it is we're not doing it. I have time, which is I worked with a very smart man while I was uniform and after, that used to say in his debriefs and counseling to subordinate unit commanders, there are two things you're not going to get in the drop-down menu of military operations. That is more people and more time. And I think the time piece can fit here because I said to the younger among us doesn't mean you have a lot of time. It just means that you have more opportunities. You definitely have more opportunities. And I think in some respects to it leads to a lot of second guessing, and that now leans to the older among us. Decisions we made, did we make the right decisions? Questioning who did we hurt in making our decisions, and beating ourselves up for not having all the facts or not having all the resources, and then all of that exacerbates itself and leads to a loss of self-trust. We stop trusting ourselves and we outsource our own critical thinking and our own strength in our emotional intelligence, and we outsource it because it's easier. It's easier to do that. I mean, but at some point, you gotta ask, what do I think? What do I think? Mama, you're so distracting me that the pup is off camera by my foot, and she wants me to rub her, but she's distracting me. Mama. She's not gonna let me do this. Little girl. Anyway, but what do I think? And then that should bring a shift, right? That should bring a shift. That clarity doesn't come from more input. It comes from pulling back, reducing the noise, stepping back, and sitting with our own thoughts. And you say, I've heard that before, so many places, by so many people. How do I really do that? And there's so many different ways to really do that. The first one, and that includes me or my channel, is to unplug for a while. Really, all of us, no matter how good the channel, no matter how much you want to know what I'm gonna put up next, unplug for a while. I'll be okay. They'll be okay. We all will be okay. But that is my first recommendation, is really just to unplug and get back to us, nature, and not the superficial, just do it a couple times like New Year's resolution and then forget about it, but actually find clarity again through our own thoughts. And the best place to do that is to get away sometimes, do some forest bathing, just go out and walk in nature. If you have a yard, if you're blessed with a yard and you have some grass, go walk barefoot in it for a while. Go sit under a tree in your yard for a while without the devices and just listen again. Like, really, truly listen again and hear hear the things that we often miss because we're going so fast and we're so overloaded and so overwhelmed, like the sound of the breeze in the tree that you're sitting under. And I know you're like, oh man, here we go. That warm and fuzzy mindfulness stuff. Indeed, that is exactly what I'm saying, because you can knock it until you try it, and then you realize what you truly have been missing. Because I often say that hearing is involuntary, but listening is an art. And I really, truly, strongly believe in that. And I think if we do more of that, truly listening to each other especially, oh, by the way, to do that, you have to unplug and actually have a conversation. Yep, indeed. No plug here for this institution, but I'll just use them as an example. And I think they're trying in some places, but I often say that we've gotten away from the face-to-face, and one of the institutions that was trying to bring it back and was, I think, my humble opinion, at its core, its initial success, was Starbucks. Sitting down together and having a conversation. Now you can be ticked off if you're waiting on a table and you can overhear the conversation. You think it's not warranted for a table and could be over like 2 minutes ago. That's a different story. But face to face, right? Face to face, like the philosophers did, the Stoics did, the people who taught us how to do this did, right? Kind of the Starbucks thing. We're going away from the things that made us above the food chain. And in so doing, we're hurting ourselves and scratching our heads and wondering why. And it's like you're just shooting yourself in the foot. But go back to some face-to-face. And if you don't want that, because I'm not a fan of the whole togetherness thing either, but I know that it has a place. So I highly support being more by yourself in some respects. But just go back to listening to yourself again, because you think, right? When you're busy, you're thinking, but I don't think you really hear yourself, or the thoughts that really matter, the ones that you should probably slow the bus down, like the analogy I like to use, right? Don't advertise on taxi cabs moving too fast for you to read it. Buses, however, a little slower. So metaphorically, slow the bus down in your head so you can hear yourself again and actually come up with decisions by answering those nagging questions that you've been ignoring because you're going so fast. And before you know it, it's another fleeting one, and there's another one replacing it, and another one replacing it. Slow the bus down. But to do that, we need to genuinely, seriously unplug and start talking to each other again. And more importantly, start listening to each other again. Because I also think that, and I'm not talking necessarily on the macro scale. On the macro scale too, there's some active listening that could be done on a lot of people and countries' parts. But I'm talking on the micro scale. Just if we do more listening in our relationships, in our families, in our workplaces, half the conflicts would not become conflicts, because we would hear and we would empathize and we would use our emotional intelligence to analyze what we're hearing, not in building a defense, but in truly listening, so that we hear, more importantly, what others are saying, so that we can actively respond. You might learn a few things too. It's hard though because we're wired to win. And when someone's speaking, especially if it's in the form of a debate where sides are drawn, most people aren't listening. They're concocting their rebuttal But start small. Start small. Start listening on purpose at the you level, which starts with you, listening to you. Slow it down and unplug. And on to our next conversation. You be good out there. Take care of yourselves, and we'll talk again soon. I'll see you.